myself Dr. Preeti Jagwani. I am an associate professor from Department of Computer Science, Aryabhat College, University of Delhi. In our previous lecture, we were looking into the shortest path algorithms or shortest path problem, and we explored various nuances of that shortest path problem. We looked into what are the applications, how are we going to define that shortest path problem, and then we looked into various kind of we can say flavors or various variants of that single source shortest path problem, and then we drilled upon our Bellman-Ford algorithm, which is going to be the agenda, because the Dijkstra algorithm, which we covered in our previous lecture series of algorithms, that is also a shortest path algorithm, but Dijkstra algorithm is not equipped to handle the edge weights which are negative. That means the condition which Dijkstra's algorithm put up is actually that all the edge weights should be positive. But the Bellman-Ford algorithm is okay, or is kind of able to handle the negative edge weights, but not the negative weight cycles. Now, what is the now we are looking into, we will be looking in this lecture, we will be looking that why this negative weight cycle is a complete no, and then we will be moving on towards our Bellman-Ford algorithm. So, when we say that negative weight cycle, so the one thing which we need to kind of be very clear about is that no path from S to a vertex on the cycle can be a shortest path, because a shortest path with the lower weight can always be found by following that cycle one more time, or we can say the shortest path with lower weight can always be found by following the proposed shortest path and traversing the negative weight cycle. So, in order to understand this concept, let us kind of see this figure or this graph, which is a disjoint graph available on the screen. So, here if we look upon into the the cycles which are negative weight cycles. So, there is a cycle from C to D, but if we look into that, that is not a negative cycle, because 6 plus minus 3 will be kind of 3. So, the total sum of this cycles, or the total sum of the edges of this cycle is not negative. But if we talk about something between E and F, so we have 3 plus minus 6, which is minus 3. So, definitely this is a negative weight cycle. So, when we let us say when we talk about the cycle which is, or the path which is kind of from S to D, or which is covering the cycle C to D and then D to C, and also the the cycle which is E to F. Now, let us see how these two cycles differ. So, the shortest path weight from the source appears within each vertex. So, if you see each vertex here, so A within that vertex 3 is being written, within that S 0 is being written, within C 5 is being written. So, what is the significance of this number? The significance of this number is these numbers are actually indicating the path from the source, or even the shortest path from the source. So, A is at is 3 units away from S. Then if we talk about B, so from S to A we can reach in 3 units and then minus 4. So, 3 plus minus 4 minus 1. So, by covering a distance of kind of let us say unit minus 1, we will be able to reach B. If we look into C, there is an edge from S to C and the weight is 5, and then if we move on to D, we have 6 more from C to D. So, total it makes 5 plus 6 as 11. Now, come to kind of we can say this E to F. So, from S to E we have 2. So, for example, if we look in if we write here 2. So, from E to F 3. So, 5 we will be writing within the F, which is 2 plus 3, and then again taking a route back from F to E, which is 5 plus minus 6 is going to be minus 1 instead of 2 inside E. And if we keep on moving in this cycle from E to F and then from F to E, with every move we will be able to decrease our kind of our uh, reachability, or the cost of reachability of E from S by every time. So, first we have given 2, then 2 plus 3 5, 5 minus 6 on the back path, minus 1 in E, then minus 1 plus 3 F will be having 4, then 4 minus 6, again E will be having minus 2. So, the moment you are going to enter into this cycle which is negative negative cycle or negative weight cycle, you will not be able to kind of end up with a definite amount. Every time you move into the cycle, you will end up with a lesser amount of this shortest path. So, in this situation, if there is a scenario in which we have a cycle which is a negative weight cycle, and that too which is reachable from our source vertex, if this is the situation, then we say that the shortest path problem here is, or we can say, or the minimum weight is actually not defined here. So, if it is not defined, that means it is having a negative weight cycle. So, the vertices E to F form a negative weight cycle, as we have just seen from S, and that is why we have written a shortest path weight of minus infinity, as you can see here, in both of the vertices, which is E and F both. Now, vertex G, when we look into, is reachable from a vertex whose shortest path is minus infinity. It too has a shortest path of minus infinity. So, if we can see G is also in such situation which is having minus infinity as its shortest path starting from S, and vertices such as H, I and J are having different cases because they are not reachable from S. So, their shortest paths are minus infinity, even though they lie on a negative weight cycle. So, they have their weights as infinity, not minus infinity, it should be infinity, my apologies here. So, vertices such as H, I, J are not reachable from S. So, their shortest path weights are shortest path weights are infinity. So, if the vertex is reachable and but reachable through a negative weight cycle, we will be looking we will be writing minus infinity within the vertex, and if they are not reachable but not reachable, then we will be looking into we will be writing infinity. That is what we can say is the common convention when we are going to start with our Bellman-Ford algorithm. So, when we talk about Bellman-Ford algorithm, this is actually a technique which will find out the shortest path problems in the presence of negative weights, but not in the presence of negative weight cycle, because we have just seen the effect of negative weight cycle, and if negative weight cycle is reachable from S, that means in that situation we say that the path is not well defined. So, our Bellman-Ford algorithm, we will simply define it as a graph search algorithm that finds the shortest path between a given source vertex and all other vertices. So, single source, all destinations, we can say single source and all other vertices which are available in the graph, shortest path between them is going to be kind of we can say find out by Bellman-Ford algorithm, and this algorithm can be used on both weighted and unweighted graphs. Now, when we talk about how does this algorithm works. So, in the first step of the algorithm, we actually overestimates the length of the path from starting vertex to all other vertex. So, from S to let us say T, U, V, W, X, Y, Z, all other vertices we will give an overestimate of the length of the path. Let us say we have given infinity, and then it keeps on iterating and it keeps on reducing those estimates, and the technical term which is used for reducing these estimates is relaxing the edges. So, we can say that then the algorithm iteratively relax those estimates by finding the new paths that are shorter than the previously overestimated path. So, initially let us say we have given infinity, and now we have discovered a path of let us say length 10. So, we will be replacing that infinity by 10. So, that means we have relaxed we are relaxing the path, we are relaxing the edges. So, iteratively the algorithm relax those estimates, and those estimates are being relaxed by finding new paths that are shorter than the previously overestimated path, and this process is actually repeated for all the vertices, and then finally we will be guaranteeing that the result is optimized. Now, one thing which is very important here is this relaxing technique is fine, or finding shortest path is fine, but what is the which is the technique that this which is the problem solving technique this Bellman-Ford algorithm is using. So, in our previous lectures, in our previous series of algorithms, we looked into various problem solving strategies, including your incremental approaches. Then we have looked into divide and conquer, of course, greedy was another technique, and so was the dynamic programming. So, first thing here is that this Bellman-Ford algorithm is based on dynamic programming technique, and how this is based on this dynamic programming technique, that we will look into when we go through this kind of the whole algorithm. Also, in practical real life applications, for example, let us say I am talking about GPS. So, GPS told you the destination or the distance to your destination is being told by GPS, but not the path. That means, but not how to get there. Then it would not be useful. So, for example, from X to Y we can reach in let us say 20 minutes or maybe 20 units by giving a cost of 20 units. But how we are going to reach from X to Y, that means what is the path, not the cost of path. Cost of path is being told, but not the path. So, then it is not going to be useful. So, that means what I am trying to say here is not only that sum, but the path also, that shortest path, that from X to V, then from V to U, then from U to W, and so on and so forth, is also to be kind of noted down somewhere. So, representing shortest path just is not enough to compute only the shortest path weights. Most of the applications of shortest path also need to know the vertices on the shortest path, definitely, as I have given you the example of GPS. So, that means what does why this context is important here, or why this point is important here is, while running any type of shortest path algorithm, we need to maintain the predecessor for each vertex for each vertex V of the whole vertex set. So, for example, at T we will be kind of arriving from S, and for U we will be arriving from T. So, for T the predecessor is S, and for U the predecessor is T. So, for a given graph, or even for each vertex in the given graph G, we need to maintain a predecessor vertex which is which is going to be another vertex, or it could be nil. So, why this is nil? This will be nil in the situation of the source vertex, because source vertex is not having any predecessor, because we are beginning our problem, we are starting our problem from that source vertex. So, the shortest path algorithm set this predecessor attributes, which is kind of denoted by pi, so that the chain of predecessors originating at vertex v runs backwards along a shortest path from S to V. So, before V that was U, before U that was T, and before T that was S. So, going backwards, taking the help of predecessor vertex, we will be able to trace the whole shortest path, and obviously the sum of that shortest path or weight of that shortest path will be kind of given. Now, here when we talk about the shortest path problem, and we are maintaining a the list of predecessors also, at the end we can have a predecessor subgraph. This predecessor subgraph is denoted by G of pi. So, G of pi is a set of V pi and E pi. V is these vertices, E is obviously the edges. What is the definition of V pi and E pi is? V pi is set of all those vertices whose predecessor is nil and the vertex S, and E pi is actually the edge between the predecessor and the vertex, that means between V of pi and V, and obviously these edges are kind of these edges are belonging to that particular edge set, because we have taken those edges from the edge set only, but here we are going to consider only those edges which are including in the predecessor subgraph. So, V pi is all those vertices whose predecessor is not nil. Also the the vertex S within this set, that means all those vertices whose predecessor is not nil union S, and E pi is V dot pi to V, that is the edge between the predecessor and we can say the successor, which is obviously belonging to E. Also V, the set V is belonging to V pi minus S, that means here we are not considering for the in case of edges E of pi, we are not considering the vertex S. So, this is what the definition of predecessor subgraph is. So, predecessor subgraph will give you the predecessor vertex as well as the predecessor edge also, that means we will be able to trace our shortest path backward. G of pi basically is actually are the values which are produced by the algorithm, and this G of pi have the property that at the termination it is the shortest path tree. Informally we can say that it is a rooted tree containing a shortest path from the source to every vertex that is reachable from S. So, putting in simple terms, we can say G of pi is going to be the tree which we are looking for, and that tree which is going to give us the shortest path from S to every other vertex which is reachable. So, when we talk about reachability, some things there are different points we need to be careful of. So, let us say G is the input which is a weighted directed graph, and the weight function we have already seen is W, which is going to map E to R, and also as a disclaimer we are assuming that G contains no negative weight cycles reachable from the source vertex S, which is obviously belonging to the vertex set V, because if there are negative weight cycles, that means the we can say the shortest path is not well defined. So, when are we going to complete, when are we going to see this shortest path in a complete manner by taking a comprehensive look onto this negative weight cycles, weight and everything. So, we define that we are going to define the shortest path tree in a similar manner. So, shortest paths are well defined here, we have seen that. So, a shortest path tree which is rooted at S, which is our source vertex, is going to be a directed subgraph which is denoted by G dash, having the vertices set as V dash and E dash as the set of edges, where V dash is obviously the subset of V, being some of the vertices have been taken. Also E dash is also a subset of E, that means some or all of the edges, some or all of the vertices have been taken. And what all properties this shortest path tree is going to possess is V dash is the set of vertices which are reachable from S. If the vertices which are not reachable from S will not be included in V dash, then G dash forms a rooted tree with root S, and for all V belonging to V dash, that means whatever vertices we have included in this G dash, the unique simple path from S to V is the shortest path from S to V in G. So, whatever paths are available in G, we have chosen the shortest path and we have put in those shortest path inside our G dash, and G dash is formed by V dash and E dash. So, our final output we can say is going to be in the form of a shortest path tree, but that is not the only output. We have other things which comes as the output. Now, where I talked about the term relaxation, which is a technique used by our algorithm. This technique says, so let us try to understand how this relaxation is happening. But before going into relaxation or before going into the procedure, the first call is given to initialize shortest path estimates and predecessor. So, when we will be looking into our Bellman-Ford algorithm, this will be the first, all these 4 steps will come at the first place. So, this first place says we need to initialize that graph. So, in order to initialize these graph means we are going to define the distance of every vertex from S, and also we are going to define the predecessor for all the vertices, we can say predecessor for all the vertices in your graph. So, initialize single source, we are passing the graph, also we are passing the source vertex, because it is important to mark the source vertex. And for each vertex V belonging to G dot V, which is the vertex set of this graph, V dot D is equals to pi. So, this D is actually denoting the distance from S. So, V dot D is equals to infinity, we are kind of representing presently, because we have not calculated the actual distance of S and V as of now. So, we are keeping it as infinity, that means this is kind of an overestimate. This was the overestimate which I was talking a few minutes before. And not only this V dot D is equals to pi, but for each and every vertex we need to do V dot pi is equals to nil. So, pi, as I have told you, is the predecessor, and as we have not defined the path yet, we have not started with our algorithm. So, predecessor for each and every vertex is given as nil, and then after this out of this loop we have given S dot D is equals to 0. So, S dot D is equals to 0, the significance here is the distance of the vertex S from the vertex S is equals to 0. So, the distance between u comma u is 0. So, S dot V is equals to 0. So, this was actually kind of initialization which is to be done when we talk about single source shortest path, and we will be using this initialization as well. Apart from this initialization, one more we can say one more procedure which is very important is the procedure of relaxation. So, as I was talking about relaxation few minutes before, that initially we have overestimated, and you have seen that V dot D is equals to infinity is an overestimate. Now, we keep on relaxing the path, so that for each vertex here we are maintaining an attribute V dot D, as you have seen. which is kind of an upper bound on the weight of the shortest path from source S to V, and we call it as shortest path estimate. And the process of relaxing an edge u comma v consists of testing whether going through vertex u improves the shortest path to vertex v found so far, and if yes, we will be updating v dot d and v dot pi, and this relaxation step will may decrease the value of shortest path estimate, and which is v dot d, and update v's predecessor attribute, which is v dot pi. Let us try to understand this with the help of an example. So, here I am having two figures which are A and B. So, presently the shortest path estimate to u is 5. So, which is the distance from S to u is 5, and from S to V is 9. So, if we go from u to v, so till u we have 5, and if we opt from u to v, the total value to reach till v will be 7. So, that means we will be able to relax this edge u comma v with the weight w, and if you can see the bottom of the figure A, we have written 7 in v, because 5 is the estimate to reach, or 5 is the kind of cost to reach u, and then from u to v we will be reaching in 2, not, and then there is no requirement of 9, we are able to relax the edge. Similarly, in the figure B, if you can see, if 6 is the kind of shortest path estimate at v, there is no point in relaxing this edge u comma v, because ultimately we will end up with 7, which is more than 6. So, even if we relax this u comma v, this is not going to update the weight, neither the predecessor. In the previous figure, which is A, one vertex is the predecessor to v, but after the relaxing, the shortest path estimate to v is 7, and also the predecessor is updated to u. Here in the B side of the figure, we haven't updated the distance, and so the predecessor, none of them we have updated. And here is the relax procedure, which says relax u comma v, which the edge, and w is the weight. If v dot d is greater than u dot d plus the weight of the edge u comma v, then v dot d you need to update by u dot d plus w u comma v, which we did in our the figure A, which was 5 plus 2 7, and the predecessor of v, which is obviously is to be updated as u. So, this was actually the relax procedure, which we have kind of seen with the help of example. So, two procedures, one is initialized single source, the initialization of the graph, and another procedure which is this relaxation. These two procedures we will be using when we formulate our Bellman-Ford algorithm completely. Because of the paucity of time, I am stopping here, and the complete algorithm of Bellman-Ford technique, which obviously will be using these two sub procedures, I will be telling that in my upcoming lecture. Here is a list of references which is being used for the preparation of the talk. I hope you have enjoyed this one. I will see you in the next. Till then, take care. Goodbye.